You're watching CNN. I'm Brooke Baldwin. Let's get right to this mystery death of a young man in Baltimore police custody. The autopsy on this 25-year-old is now complete. The names of the officers involved in his arrest released. But more information has not led, though, to any more clarity as far as how this 25-year-old suspect, Freddie Gray, broke his neck after Baltimore police arrested him. This is back on April 12th. He died a week later. Now, as we mentioned a second ago, the department has suspended these 6 officers with pay. They've released their names, their ages, how long they've been on the force. But officials didn't specify on the reasons why. However, the mayor of Baltimore did tell CNN this.
We know that he asked for medical attention. We know that that medical attention was not immediately requested for him. We know that was a mistake.
That conclusion based on the fact that Gray asked for medical help more than once while being transported in a van. In fact, city and police officials revealed Gray requested his inhaler, his asthma inhaler, at the same time officers called for the van. They also disclosed that Gray was put in leg restraints, but officials say they do not know how or when Gray's spinal cord was severed. And what's more, Gray's autopsy revealed his spinal injury was the only trauma to his body.
There was no physical bodily injury that we saw, nor was it evident in the autopsy of Mr. Gray. None of his limbs were broken.
CNN has affiliate WJZ has obtained amateur video that provides a new, closer angle to Gray's arrest. Warning, the video is tough to watch.
Shorty, that was after they tased out him like that. Man, I've been recording. I've been recording it.
Get his badge number, yo.
I've been recording it. What car they come out of, yo?
He on a bike, yo, right there. Him right there. He on a bike.
I got it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, yo.
Get his badge number, his chop badge.
After they did tase yo like that, you wonder why he can't use his legs.
I need you off the street.
Yeah, I sure will. I sure will.
With me now, spinal cord expert Dr. Donald Leslie. He's the medical director at the Shepherd Center, a physical rehabilitation facility there in Atlanta, Georgia. Doctor, welcome.
Thank you.
I've been told you do have a monitor, so you are seeing this video of this young man being taken away by police and placed in this van. And when you hear, and again, we don't know when the spinal cord injury happened, this is according to police, but when you hear a severing of a spinal cord, 80%, how much force does it take to have that happen?
I would presume a good bit of force in that the spinal cord and the spine. You say the spinal cord was severed?
80%, yes, sir, according to the attorney.
80%. I would presume that a great deal of force could be necessary to sever a spinal cord, depending on what happened to the vertebral, the bony elements around the spinal cord.
So, if you were to be pushed or fall, how much force behind that? Can you try to explain that a little farther? I'm just trying to understand when you say a bit of force.
Right.
Give me an example.
Certainly. The patients that we see that have hyperextension neck injuries when they fall, most typically in the bathroom possibly, and hit their heads, their chin on the bathtub. Oftentimes that hyperextends the spine and can injure the cord. Most of our injuries at Shepherd come from automobile injuries. Mm-hmm.
So the fact that when we see in this video, you can hear him almost moaning or wailing, and he looks like a rag doll. I mean, to me, it looks like his legs aren't moving whatsoever as they're putting him in this van. Would that be consistent with some sort of spinal cord injury? Because the other question is, something could have happened in the van.
True, something could have happened in the van. When I saw the video and saw him being picked up, it looked like he did not have full strength of his legs at that time. At least that's what I see when I look at the video for the first time.
And when you hear that he's asking, he's apparently saying he couldn't breathe, he's asthmatic, he was asking for an inhaler, he didn't have his inhaler on him. When you have a spinal cord injury, does it restrict, I don't know if I'm even using the right word, your trachea? Would that make it difficult to breathe, or would that area remain unaffected?
Well, the issue is that if you have an injury to the cervical spine, that's where the nerves which control respiration are emanating. So if there's a cervical injury, if it's high enough in the cervical region, you require respiratory assistance. So I'm presuming that that would have been the case. Now, he's asthmatic, so it may well be that his respiration was compromised despite the fact.
Okay, forgive me, doctor. I got to talk to our control room. Somebody's keyed into my ear, so I can't hear the doctor. Can you guys push the button? Hopefully, I can hear you now.
Can you now?
There we go. Forgive me, live TV. It happens. So, can you show me? I know you brought a vertebrae. You brought a spine. Can you show me what you're referencing?
Yes. This is a model of the spine here, and from the top to the bottom, the first 7 vertebrae, C1 through C7, cervical 1 through cervical 7, it's at 2, 3, and 4, and maybe 3, 4, and 5. There's a limerick in medical schools, C3, 4, 5 keeps the man alive. So if you have an injury high in the cervical area, it can affect your respiration, and it can cause paralysis and or death.
All right, Dr. Donald Leslie with the Shepherd Spinal Center, thank you so much for showing that to us. But let's talk more about what's happening in the community in Baltimore. You know, this evening, a protest is planned in Baltimore over the death of Freddie Gray and against police brutality, and no doubt my next guest will be there. He is Reverend Jamal Bryant. He is the pastor for the Empowerment Temple Church in Baltimore. Reverend, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Can we just begin with the neighborhood? Are you familiar with this neighborhood in which Freddie Gray was taken in?
I am.
Can you tell me about it?
The neighborhood is really something that we really stereotypically don't talk about. They are a community. They are a larger family. As a consequence, as you look at the footage, you see that the whole community came out and began really asking questions. They didn't turn a blind eye. This is at 8:48 in the morning, and nobody can understand. We're now a week out, and the police still have not filled out in the police report probable cause. I went down to that community. The people are righteously in indignation and upset, as they should be, because they feel as if their community has been swept under the rug. Because what you did not say is that the incident took place 4 blocks away from the police station. They're 4 blocks away, and so the time lapse that is unaccounted for is inexcusable from the police commissioner and from the mayor of the city of Baltimore. So tonight at 5 p.m., the entire community, the real city, is coming out to show that we are really upset about what is taking place.
4 blocks away. This is the first I've heard of this, because we've been saying over and over 42 minutes. 42 minutes, that's how long it took for Freddie Gray to get some kind of medical attention.
Right. What happened is, what you're seeing in that footage is the initial arrest. 2 blocks away from that, they take Mr. Gray out of the paddy wagon. They said to readjust his cuffs. They put him back in, and then we have a lapse in time. Nowhere in the history of respiratory issues has anybody from an asthma attack had their spine severed by 80%. It wasn't because of breathing, it's because of malfeasance. And all 6 of those officers to be put on paid vacation is a further slap in the face, if not a spit in the face, to say that black lives really don't matter, that I'm going to pay you while we're still investigating. And then to add insult to injury, the police yesterday claimed that Mr. Gray had a knife on him. What is not said is that it was a pocket knife in his pocket that was not seen, and he was not wielding it towards the officers or anybody. They had absolutely no reason. What the congressman said last week in the State House is, in fact, it is hunting season for black men in America, and that's why there's a more outrage from Sanford, Florida, to Ferguson, Missouri, Staten Island, New York, and now right here in Baltimore.
I talked to Congressman Hank Johnson. I had him on my show just a couple of days, and we talked about that. And we also I pressed him a little bit on how that could be really also a blanket statement that all law enforcement are then considered the hunters. But back to your point, I mean, I understand. I've talked to a number of lawyers, and I understand the passion and the frustration in your community. I've talked to a number of people, but at the same time, you know, looking at this from both sides, this is not exactly the best neighborhood in terms of crime. When you look at this young man's background, and I am not saying this explains anything, but it was lawful for law enforcement as they approached him and he ran, given facts about the situation. It was lawful in them approaching him, and he ran. Here's my question: since you do know these community members, what is the reputation?
Yes.
What is the relationship in this particular community between police and the young
Yes.
people?
Well, it is very divisive when we have evidence now that this young man is being put in a paddy wagon and they have no charges on him. He was no threat, doing nothing illicit, immoral, or illegal. You said, describe the community. Nobody described the Columbine community as being crime infested, or when the elementary school was shot up in Connecticut, it wasn't based off of the neighborhood. There's a pejorative misperception about African Americans who assume, albeit negatively, that because it is in fact impoverished and redlined, that it's crime infested. This young man was doing absolutely nothing
And
wrong.
I'm not
The
challenging you
police
on that,
officers
sir.
were
Forgive
wrong.
me. I'm not trying to be pejorative. I'm just trying to explain the law, because people are asking, well, if he was just walking around the neighborhood and was trying to be taken in by police,
Right.
it was lawful because of the crime statistics in the neighborhood for them to do so. That was just my only point.
Right, but your premise was on based off of the neighborhood. What is not discussed is Baltimore has had to pay out over $1.5 million in lawsuits out of court because of the negative police brutality that they've been inflicting unchecked. And that's part of the reason why the Attorney General has got to be sworn in immediately, because there needs to be some oversight. Just as Bluebell ice cream is contaminated, the police force in America is contaminated. If in the last 10 years, 1,000 unarmed black men have been killed at the hands of police without there ever be any check or revision, something has to happen.
I have one of the lead investigators from the Baltimore Sun on next hour to describe exactly what they found in reference to your precise point about the settlements and about police brutality and how it has been a problem in the city of Baltimore. Reverend Jamal Bryant, thank you so much for your time this Tuesday afternoon.
Thank you for having me.